Go ahead and get started. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. This meeting is an in-person meeting at 870 Colfax here in Benton Harbor. In addition, a live stream of this meeting is available at the following link. Questions may be submitted beforehand to liz.goodwin@bhas.org or presented in person during the public comment section as indicated in the agenda. Board members may be contacted through the emails listed below. Requests for special assistance, including for persons with disabilities, may be sent to liz.goodwin@bhas.org. I call this meeting to order officially at 6:11 p.m. We will begin by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary Triplett, can you please call the roll?
President Robinson.
Present.
Vice President Bowens. Secretary Triplett, present. Treasurer Creighton. Trustee Rocket Martin.
Present.
Trustee Doyle.
Present.
Trustee Gavin.
Present.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Secretary Triplett. A quorum has been established. Next, we have approval of the agenda. As a reminder, this is our work session meeting for next month. I do want to clarify for Dr. Butts, I believe there may be at minimum 2 reports that you're attempting to take votes on today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that the Director of Facilities and Director of Human Resources?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just want to make sure the board is aware that Dr. Butts is wanting to proceed and see if we can get those cabinet assignments finalized. So at this time, I'll ask, is there a motion to approve the agenda with the understanding that he wants us to take votes on staff reports S1 and S2?
Madam President,
You have the floor.
I would like to amend the agenda for S2 for interim.
Okay, we can have that. We can discuss that once we get to the staff report.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second or support? Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Trustee Rocket Martin and supported by, was that Trustee Gavin?
Yes.
Any question, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Secretary Triplett.
President Robinson.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Doyle.
Yes.
Trustee Gavin.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, next on the agenda, and I also want to clarify for you all as well. The closed session is notated under the superintendent section. It was just supposed to be the next item of business, so it's not technically a part of what, his presentation. But I just tried to guesstimate about where we might be at 7 o'clock. So there may be some fluctuation or slight changes to the agenda. Once Gardner is able to attend, it might be adjusted slightly. All right, next on the agenda is review of board norms. The board norms for Benton Harbor area schools: we will treat each other with respect. We will listen to learn. We will refrain from side conversations. We will use our time wisely, starting and ending our meetings on time. We will challenge ideas, not people. We will ask questions when in doubt. There will be no surprises at the board table. We will practice the 7 norms of collaboration. Those are pausing, paraphrasing, posing questions, putting ideas on the table, providing data, paying attention to self and others, and presuming positive intentions. Next up, we have public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to make a comment on an agenda item? Okay, I'll give you a moment to do so.
Yeah.
What you would like to say is regarding that, you can come up now. I'll go ahead and read you the statement. The Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. Today, there are 2 areas for comment on the agenda of which you may decide when to speak. Public comment on agenda items and open public comment. We request that each interested participant complete a public participation form using legible writing to ensure that responses are appropriate and properly focused. Per Benton Harbor Area Schools Bylaw 0167.3, which governs board participation at board meetings, we request that you preface your comments with your name, address, and group affiliation when appropriate. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to a 3-minute duration, and per our bylaws, no participant may speak more than once on the same topic until any other persons have had the opportunity to speak on that topic. Participants may remove their mask when addressing the board. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. The board will listen, take comments and questions under advisement, and not respond at this time. I, as president, will refer questions to the superintendent for research and response. Please ensure that your public participation form includes your contact information as requested. If you have specific questions for the board or executive team that require follow-up, please email those directly to liz.goodwin@bhs.org. You have the floor.
I may need to wait till the end because looking at the smaller bulletins under subsection 6, it doesn't basically cover what I'm here to discuss.
So I will allow that to be up to your discretion.
Okay.
If you want to go ahead and make your comment now, if it's pertaining to the agenda or a topic. So if it's facility related, you're more than welcome to do so now. If you think you prefer to listen to the discussion that we're having and make a comment after the meeting, you have that opportunity to do so. So I'll allow that to be your decision to make.
Okay. Again, I'm Gloria Dumas.
Okay.
I was here back in May.
Just her mic. Can you hear her? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was here in May to discuss our bus issues. And one of the bus drivers just recently told me that Dr. Bus, along with his Dr. Brown, has approved the bus stop at the Venus. 28 days from East Impact. It's a 2-lane road. Speed limit is 55 miles an hour. They're making it a hazard bus stop. That means traffic can still flow at 55 miles an hour. They're not blocking off the entrance. They don't have enough room to pull properly off of the roadway for it to be a hazard-like stop. I have a 6-year-old that they're making walk all the way to Empire. I can be at work at 7 in the morning. His bus comes after 8 o'clock. He has no supervision. They won't bring it to the office, even though my petition back in May stated that the office staff was fine with school buses coming to that office. But because Bonnie Brown doesn't like me, she's making it very hard. And she definitely told her drivers that Dr. Bus approved that stop. And he looked me in my face and told me that he has no control over it because there's a contract with her student. But again, you guys are here to govern our student body. I remember going to school here. I still remember the preamble, Ms. Triplett. Literally from 7th grade, I went to school with you, one of the smartest girls in the school. But we had people who cared about us. So all I'm asking you guys is to care a little bit more about our kids. Because if they can't get here safe, what is the purpose of allowing our kids to come to school? I'm to the point to where I'm about to literally take out 2 of my kids and send them to the countryside for this very safety issue. I will not put my child in danger because someone wants to have their pockets or look good for someone else. I have several bus drivers who agree that this bus stop is unsafe. Even the routing coordinator agrees that that bus stop should be at the office. Safety coordination, no one has been to that stop to actually assess this happening at all. 2009, 10-year-old was hit at Fairplain Middle School on the grounds because drivers were not paying attention. I remember when I first started, I started driving in 2011. I was probably driving maybe 3 years with the Girls Club with that car. Little boy gets off the bus, goes into the Boys and Girls Club, comes out, gets hit by a car because the bus driver didn't make sure that this child is safe. What do we have to do to make sure that our kids are transported safely? After all, they are the customer. And without the customer, none of us have a job. No one has a job without the customer. And for people who are not even a part of this city, they can't get around without GPS. How are you okay with making decisions for the city of Benton Harbor and our residents and our children when you need a GPS to get around? You don't come to any community events, anything to support our children. You're looking at the big dollar signs rather than the safety of our kids. So again, if this issue cannot be fixed before the first day of school, my children will be relocated to another school district. I want to do that. I grew up a Tiger my entire life, from Hull School all the way to Big Harbor High School. Proud graduate of 2004. I've been a Tiger my whole life. My oldest two boys have been fighting to get back here so they can graduate as Tigers. We don't allow that if you're not going to be safe while doing so. You got teachers here who talk to these people like they're adults. And then you take them out of school and they respond in the same manner. Something's got to change when it comes to the customer, our children, because it's too many of our kids being lost to stupid things. When an adult, all they have to do was, hey, let's follow through. Let's see what we can figure out to work together to make it safe for everybody's kids, not just my kids, but my kids have friends out there in ravines. So many little kids are out there, and their excuse is too many stop signs. Last time I checked, you sat on your butt to do your job. So it doesn't matter how many stop signs you stop at. It matters that those kids board safely. That's my biggest issue. And Dr. Bless, I'm afraid that this is a lie that they told. I really did pray because it was hurtful to hear you tell me that there's nothing you can do because you're under contract, but because you guys govern the student body, you have control of that. You can tell Bonnie where these bus stops are going to be. She can lose that contract, and I can guarantee you First Group in Ohio is going to have a problem with that because she can't lose money. If First Student is losing money, they trust.
Ma'am, please wrap up your comment.
They need to work for us, not the other way around.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to see you. It's been quite some time. All right. Next on the agenda. Is there anyone else for public comment on agenda items before we proceed? All right, hearing none. Next on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes. We will be taking vote on those in our next board meeting. They are highlighted because there's still information or minutes that are needed to be submitted to Liz. Received quite a few email requests. I've also sent emails requesting that these be submitted. So I'm asking for the help of the board in following up, ensuring that we have everything finalized to be able to take a vote at our next meeting. Reminder protocol: as of 9/13/2022, all comments will be limited to 2 minutes per trustee per topic. Up first, we have board business. If you all remember at our last meeting, Trustee Doyle asked or made a comment regarding interest that she has in Committee of the Whole, which is our work session. However, Trustee Doyle is actually interested in exploring the possibility of eliminating individual committees altogether in our work session, serving as Committee of the Whole. So I will defer to Trustee Doyle to open up if you would like to express your stance on it, because it was your request. I can't speak for you. I just wanted us to just take a quick moment to have this conversation. I did not put an actual staff report there. However, if it is a request of the board, there would be a staff report on the August board meeting to vote. So you have the floor, Trustee Doyle.
Thank you, President Robinson.
Trustee Doyle, pull it up.
Thank you, President Robinson. For me, I think if we eliminate the committee meetings, everybody will get the information at one time. So then we'll just be more informed on what's going on in our districts and in our school. So, yeah.
All right. And I was correct. You were wanting to keep the work sessions, but eliminate individual committee meetings entirely.
Correct.
Okay. And just for the board, she's mentioning the individual separate committees that we have. This would not impact our ability to create any potential ad hoc committees, meaning committees that are needed for a specific term or time. So she just wants to explore what that would potentially look like. So I'll go to Secretary Triplett. Was your hand raised as well, Rocket Martin? Okay, Secretary Triplett.
Yes, I think one thing that I have, like right now, where we're in right now is a committee. It's like a work session. It operates like the committee as a whole. I think that it is imperative. I know that it requires a lot of time, but I think that it's imperative for us to keep the committees, but I think that we need to have some training or have some discussion as to how the committees actually look. Because I think one thing that we're struggling with is that we're not getting reports, or we're not able to get reports for the whole Board of Education before the meetings or before the actual work session. So the committee as a whole is very, very important. So when we talk about, if we talk about a committee as a whole, we need to definitely be trained on how that would actually look, because that means all of the personnel information will be done here. Policies and everything will be done right here. And there are some things, the structure of the committee is to go through, meet with the superintendent, find out, what's happening, what they're bringing, and then make the decision what is to come before the board. It is not the responsibility, is not the authority of the committees to vote or anything. And I think that's where the problem comes.
Understood. Any other comments from the board? Okay, Trustee Gavin.
President Robinson, I'm in support of committee of the whole, as long as there's a structure in place that allows committee chairs to run the meeting. There's a clear structure in terms of reporting for each one of those sections. We're consistent in our reporting recommendations, and that, like Secretary Triplett said, we have proper training. I know that it would take longer to run that meeting, but I think it would be more efficient. And I think that it would make sure that everybody has the information at the same time, instead of one group having information, the other one not finding out until the issue has already happened. And it will also give an opportunity for the public to get the information real time as well. We can utilize closed session if there's something private that cannot be discussed in the public, but it would really be a transparent process. So I think as long as we structure it properly, it would be a good opportunity to, for Dr. Butts, for the superintendent role, to streamline their efforts, right? So you have a superintendent, they have 5, 6, 7 meetings to go to. That's time that they could be spending doing the work. So I'm in support of it, as long as it's structured properly. We have some report outs that gives us the information we need to make the right decisions. And it's a transparent process, and people have an opportunity to lead their sessions.
All right. Any other feedback from the board? Vice President Bowen? Oh, Trustee Raquel Martin, and then Bowens.
And I'm sure I've been to some of those trainings with MASB. MASB could also help train us to let us see what it looks like as a committee as a whole, because I am also for that. We all receive the same information. We can ask questions, and nobody will feel like, well, we don't really have to pick and choose what we bring to the board. We'll all be on a level playing field. Everybody can ask questions there, get an understanding, and I think it would be very beneficial for our school board.
Okay. So I do have feedback from both sides of the table. What I'm hearing from you all is those that are in support of committee of the whole and eliminated committees, you think it's imperative for everyone to get the information at the same time, also noting more efficient use. Oh, you didn't go yet. VP Bowens.
I think it would be naive and irresponsible and reckless to do that in the middle of the year, in the middle of our school board season. It is committees in the House of Representatives. And Lansing, they have the Educational Committee, the Health and Human Services Committee. And Lansing, Washington, D.C., they have the Human Services, they have judicial committees. They have different committees that you can watch on C-SPAN. However, for us to change this because we feel like it does not work is making a mockery of government, of the school board in the middle of the year. I think if we're going to implement any changes, let's do it when we elect new officers at our organizational meeting in January. We voted to do this and set our organization's committee as a whole and have two committees. To get rid of our committees, it's like we're playing government and we're saying, oh, because we don't think it works, let's cancel it. Could you imagine if our congressman and our state's representative and all of them said, let's do that? Certain things would not be passed. I think it is imperative of us to set an example and to make sure we are looking at stuff clear. So if we're going to change it, yes, let's change it, but let's change it in the beginning of our year, not in the middle, because we feel like it doesn't work.
Okay. So I have just want to play back. Committee of the whole, those that are for it, they think that it will be more time efficient. It will ensure everyone gets the same information at the same time. Trustee Gavin stressed the importance of there being a structure for chairs to report, proper training on how to run the committee of a whole. Of course, everyone will have the information. And then the cons, Secretary Triplett mentioned some of the things that we have to dig into and talk that may not be ready to come before the table. And Trustee Barnes also mentioned it being reckless to change mid-year and that state offices have committees. My feedback, to be honest, I can see myself going either way, and I know that that's probably not very helpful to everyone for the same reasons that you all have had. My greatest concern is I think that right now with the amount of committee meetings that we're trying to have and the things that are having to go from one committee to another and go to this committee when there's 3 or 4 committees that a particular issue addresses, it kind of ties the superintendent's hands and limits his ability to bring information to the table. Whereas if it could just come to the table, everyone could see it. So I am, for that reason, kind of for eliminating committees. However, I also have reservations as to the timing of it, whether that would be something that we would take a vote on now, do the training so that we know what that would look like, and then plan to do it effective January. As a response to Trustee Bourne's suggestion of allowing the new members or potential new members of the board to make that decision, I would think it would be best for the acting board to make that decision, to get properly trained, so that if there is a change in leadership or a change in the members that are, brought to the board table, the senior members have already been equally trained and able to kind of lead them in what that process looks like. So I'm kind of for both sides. So I'll probably surprise everybody which way I vote, but I definitely just wanted to have the conversation.
You know something?
What did I leave out?
Oh, mine. I said that, for the committee, that there needs to be more structure, because structure in the committee, how the committee work, because it is the responsibility of the superintendent to manage all of those various things as it relates to bringing the information together versus the board, because the committee is for us to discuss prior to bringing things before the Board of Education. So I do want that to, I am for that, but I think that there could be some training and some clear understanding on what is the role and function of the committee, because it has been, in our city government, in our town, in our governments, they do have committees and what have you. So, but I just think we need to train it, and we need the intense training. And so what our roles and our responsibilities are.
Another alternative to consider for the board is currently, our committees have 3 members. We don't make decisions. We kind of get the information as clarification, and then the decisions are made at the board table. We could always go to a system where our committees are public, where we are in person.
Most definitely.
And then if any board member at any point could choose to attend the committee meeting just as a witness. So that's always a possibility, but just wanted to throw that out there. So we will. I
don't think they can.
I will, huh?
I don't think they can do that.
As long as so if you have a committee meeting and it's 3 people and it's in the public, it's a committee meeting, so it can function with the 3.
Right. No, I'm just saying, but a 4th person, then we have a quorum.
Then you would have a quorum.
Check it. I don't think we can do that. No.
Well, but if you give public notice.
Yeah. then people
then
come in.
then you could do all of, they could come, people,
Yeah.
the public could come. You would just basically structure it like a board meeting, but make it clear it's a committee meeting.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you all for at least taking the time to have that conversation. I like to make sure that when I hear at minimum one voice, but definitely when there's more than one voice saying that something is needed, I try to make sure that it's discussed amongst the full board so I can kind of see the temperature of everyone. Up next, we have the policy committee date, Trustee Gavin, and then she's going to discuss policy 3112, and then you have the floor to chair your committee update.
Thank you, President Robinson. We are still kind of awaiting what happens with the committee of the whole, hoping that that's something we might address during our retreat as well, and that will have an impact on how we structure our policy committee as well. But something that we discussed during policy committee, one was the cell phone policy, discipline policy. We're very much interested in making sure that we look at what are the factors behind some of the issues that causes folks to feel unsafe, and how can we address those policies, make changes to those policies at a board level, what are best practices in other districts, so that we can make sure that our families and our students are feeling safe. I heard you, ma'am, and I'm very much interested in that issue as well. The other thing that so Dr. Butts did reach out to Neola to, find out what our best practice is. He's going to bring some recommendations to us. We want to make sure that whatever cell phone policy or discipline policy that we come up with, that we've also listened to the people who are impacted by this change, and make sure that we have kind of all of our ducks in a row, so that if we do implement a policy, we can implement it with fidelity. We know who is going to be in charge of what aspects of making sure that cell phone use is not contributing to the fights, to the cyberbullying, making sure that yes, we definitely, want students to be able to have access to cell phones if it's for educational purposes. But at the same time, we want to make sure that that access does not interfere with education, or does not, allow us to be in a predicament where we're allowing them to coordinate some things that shouldn't be happening in school, if that makes sense. So we're going to be getting real deep into that. We want to start off strong with the school year coming in. The other issue is that there was a lot of people who were feeling like they could not talk to school board members. They, they had indicated that they were told that they were not allowed to talk to school board members. I had never heard anything like that before. And so I asked Dr. Butts to give us the policy on that so that we could review it. And if you all just have an opportunity to review that policy, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what we recognize very clearly in that meeting is not that staff cannot talk to individual school board members. The policy indicates that if the staff wants to address the full board, if they want to address the board as a staff, right, we can't, interfere with what you do as an individual, as a resident or a citizen. But if you want to address the full board as a staff, then you are to submit that through the superintendent, and the procedure is not to deny any staff member the right to appeal to the board during important matters through established procedures. The other thing is that staff can talk to individual board members. That's in section C. They can talk to individual board members, but they have to just understand that as an individual board member, I can't make promises on behalf of the board. I'm just an individual. I can listen. We can have an exchange. You can share ideas, innovations, concerns, but I am not the decision maker by myself. So that point of clarity is so important. And so I was really happy that we had an opportunity to address that policy and make that clear. And I'm hoping that the public and the staff will understand that that is what it is. Yeah. And so that's where we are. The other thing that we discussed is that under our new structure, I was doing all of the doing all of the meeting minute notes and creating the agenda. I turn that over to Dr. Butts. And so when he does the next agenda through his executive assistant, they will identify the top 3 policies that we need to be updating according to Neola, and we will review those policies. If school board members have a policy that you want us to review, you can submit that to us and we will put it on the agenda as well. Are there any questions?
I do. Well, I guess I have a couple. The board staff communication. When you look at section C, I think, and you look like you're saying, the staff, many of the staff members are citizens in the community.
Absolutely.
So they come to us and they talk to us about situations and circumstances. But we have to make sure that we are clear on our responsibility, because we do not have the right to make promises or anything. So if someone come to us, it is our responsibility. Say, for instance, a teacher come to us with a complaint. Our responses, and they tell us what the complaint is. They are to be sent. The next question is, you talk to your principal.
Right.
I've talked to my principal. Did you talk to the chief academic director? I talked to my chief academic director. Did you talk to the superintendent? So you send them back to those people, and then when they tell us they've talked to the principal, they talked to the chief academic officer at that particular point, then there should be a conversation from us with the superintendent. I think one thing that you just have to be careful with what it is that we say, because people do come. Also, I noticed at the beginning that the policy committee was moving very rapidly on updating our policies, and I was wondering what was happening with that, Madam Chair.
So I had been creating agendas and meetings had been canceled. Okay, so that's one thing. Meetings have been canceled. And so I decided I'm not going to keep creating agendas if meetings are going to be canceled. Okay. And I'm going to turn that over to administration.
So I mean,
and so
how are they canceled? I mean, when you say who canceled them,
Summer holidays.
well, I mean, who canceled?
I just want to remind the board to speak into your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just that's what I'm talking about. Us having clarity on the roles and the responsibilities of the committee, because the committees are the committees of the Board of Education. They are not the committees of the superintendent or anyone. These are committee meetings of the Board of Education. And so if you have a committee meeting scheduled, I'm not sure exactly how they are canceled and what have you. We can talk about it. I guess I can understand.
So, well, let me be clear. That's not the only reason. And let me also be clear. Trustee Rocket Martin said that sometimes there's holidays. Sometimes we cancel. Sometimes the superintendent cancels.
Right.
At the same time, I recognize that that's the superintendent and his executive assistant's role to develop those agendas. I looked at the recommendation from President Robinson. And so that there is a uniform agenda. And so I concur with that. And those policies, I asked what are the top policies that need to be addressed. And I put that on Dr. Butt's desk. I said, whatever those top policies are, because you have a better understanding of what's running in your district, what are the top things that need to happen, submit that to us, and we can go from there. A lot has been going on. And so the goal is that the next meeting, they will identify what are the top 3 policies that they would like us to look at. I also did that because there was a time when the district was dealing with, I don't know what it was. It was like a competitive bargaining issue. And Dr. Butt's office said that those policies need to be addressed. There are certain ones that need to be addressed with a sense of urgency over others. And so I want to make sure that if there are certain ones that legally have to be addressed first, that we know what those are.
Okay. And just to provide clarification, I think Trustee Gavin is referencing an email I sent out before that had an example of a committee report agenda that I thought would be good if we all kind of get on the same page with the template. So
Madam President, I think that there's some confusion as it relates to what the committees are. Because first of all, they are not the committees of the superintendent. They're the committees of the Board of Education. The superintendent's responsibility, his office is responsible for putting the agendas together. Exactly. But the work is done with, if the superintendent has something that they're going to present in that committee, but they work along with that chairman. And that chairman also adds things to that agenda because this is not his committee. And he will bring things that he wants to report, but that comes through us. And I think that that has been a problem for all of us. And that's why I say, I don't think that it's not that the committees do not work. I think that historically, people have not had the understanding of what it is because he is not an official member of this Board of Education. And people take that the wrong way. It's not just him, anybody that's sitting in that seat. We have a responsibility of governance, oversight, and accountability. And in those committee meetings, he contacts the chairman, work with the chairman, tell the chairman what he wants to bring on there. And then if the chairman has some things that he or she wants to discuss, they should be added to the agenda, come to an agreement on what the agenda looks like.
Absolutely. And what I would say is that that's happened in terms of me identifying the policies that I wanted to address. We have identified those policies. We've worked through those policies. And also, I would also like to know what are the top policies that the district needs to be addressed according to deadlines. So if there is a policy that urgently needs to be addressed, I would like to get that insight from the superintendent's office. But what is a top priority for me right now is peer mediation and the discipline committee portion, making sure that we have as many students as possible who have been trained in negotiation and conflict resolution so that they can solve their own problems, making sure that we address this discipline policy, a cell phone policy that works for both the students and the staff and the parents and the community and the school district. And then also whatever the superintendent identifies as a priority. And then also making sure that the staff know their rights in terms of being able to communicate with us as a board. But there is a tracking sheet. And I told Dr. Butts that if they do not identify a policy that's a priority from now on, we will just address the most recent policy chronologically that's in that tracking sheet that we developed.
Trustee Gavin, I have my finger raised for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like me, is that why you missed me? Little finger. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just wanted to give my feedback on policy 3112.
Yes.
I think it's extremely important that we as a board, like Secretary Triplett mentioned, respect the hierarchy of the district. And one of the things that is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm not in favor of it, is when people circumvent authority. And so I think it's extremely important that because we are the first line of defense, they're going to come to us, but you want to make sure that they have taken the necessary channels because they see us as the public and as the be all and end all, beginning and end of everything for the district, but we're not in here doing the work. And sometimes they'll come to us with an issue to resolve that they haven't even given the authority, the person in charge, an opportunity to resolve. So I think it's imperative that we are making sure that they follow those channels if there's a concern. And then I would also want to ensure that the board understands that if you do have a person that comes to you in confidence and shares things with you, for example, and says that they don't feel comfortable communicating it forward, and these are things that you choose not to share, it can come back on the district because you are still a board member of Benton Harbor area schools. So you have to be very careful. Even if you communicate to them, I am not acting as a representative of the full board, they will say, I did communicate my issue to a board member. So those are just things I want you all to be mindful of, and ensure that we're giving the district an opportunity to rectify concerns, whether it's good things or negative things, before it comes before us as a board. I also want to point out that council has arrived for the closed session. I wasn't sure if Trustee Gavin was done with her committee update.
Yep, just one quick thing. I'm definitely in agreement with that. And I think on the flip side of that is when staff has gone through the entire chain of command and they're needing that support, right?
Right.
So it's kind of double-edged sword there. And so we definitely have to use wisdom in these conversations. There was something else, but I don't remember. I just like to reserve the opportunity to come back to it if it comes later. I turn it
over. I'll notate that.
Thank you.
Just tap me on my shoulder if I forget. Okay, so for the sake of time, I think that it would be best if we go ahead and amend the agenda to allow for the closed session at this particular time. If there's no objections to that, I did mention that we're going to be flexible with the closed session. So at this particular time, is there a motion to amend the agenda to move the closed session directly under the policy committee update?
I make a motion to amend the agenda to allow for closed session.
All right, is there a second or support?
Second.
The motion has been made by Trustee Rockette Martin and supported by Vice President Bowens. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, now Secretary Tripoli, you're just taking the vote for the amendment of the agenda, and then we're still going to take the closed session vote as well. So you may have to make a notation in your box.
Right.
All right, Secretary Tripoli, can you call the vote?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowens,
No.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rockette Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle, Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right. Where did Doyle go? Okay. At this particular time, I'll ask the closed session. The Board of Education may hold a closed session to consider materials such as written opinions of council, which are exempt from discussion by state or federal statute. We have Troon Law Firm here, our attorney, Tim Gardner, reference policy 0167.2F. Is there a motion to end open session and enter closed session?
I make a motion to end open session to go into closed session.
Is there a second or support?
Second.
The motion has been made by Trustee Rockette Martin and supported by Vice President Bowen. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Secretary Triplett?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowens,
No.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rockette Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle, Trustee Gavin.
Did Trustee Doyle get to vote?
This is for entering closed session.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right. And so just clarification for the public, we are entering closed session. This is a session that is privy to the board and its attorney only. After our closed session, we'll return to open session and continue our agenda. If you are physically here in person, you're more than welcome to stay and wait for us to come out. If you would like to leave before we return to open session, you can always tune in via Zoom. So we are ending open session and entering closed session officially at 6:55 p.m.